So.
Yeah, none of this was in our notes, Mox. Like
of course not.
Blows my mind.
It's George Costanza and Seinfeld. Dateline, Fort Worth. Welcome to Disparate Worlds, where we are going to be discussing the news of an irresistible force meeting an immovable object. I'm Mox, and this is Sechari, and we are comparing and contrasting the worlds of Pantheon, Rise of the Fallen, and Ashes of Creation.
I think we need to revoke your card.
No, you outside of the box. Me, I get to do some. We're doing some news, so I figured Dateline Fort Worth was important to throw in there. So
yeah, none of this was in our notes, Mox. Like
of course not.
Blows my mind.
It's George Costanza and Seinfeld.
So I had been planning that since before that episode. I had it written so that you were just gonna go with it. I said, just go with it. You went with it, and then
did you wake up in the middle of the night like and write notes? Like, did you have a notebook like on your nightstand and like?
George Costanza.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the dysfunctional world that is Disparate Worlds.
Yes. Speaking of dysfunction, I was going to say that we are publishing episodes so fast right now, you'd actually think we have something useful to say. Right?
I hope we do.
Very, very much not like us.
We probably have something more useful to say than the folks at Unity.
Right. They're trying not to say things because they said their piece and it didn't go so well for them.
It did not go well at all.
I'm kidding. Yeah, so that's what we're going to be chatting about this episode, friends, is Unity's price change. They've changed their whole strategy up and announced it, and it is not going so well. But I think the real question is, what is the effect on Pantheon, Rise of the Fallen, right? So we're going to touch on that some.
Yep.
But first, let's touch on some Ashes news. We figured that we just hit the news real quick and make that happen. So, all right. So the first thing that is going on in the Ashes world, Steven's appearance on the discussion round with Yokai Theater, that is now live on YouTube. Obviously, it was live streamed, right? So the whole piece has been moved to YouTube now, but that's now available. So I'm still working my way through it. If there is anything, that I want to comment on, I may do a brief, or if it's important enough, and we'll actually do an episode on it. So stand by on that. We'll see what happens. Another thing that they did over there at Ashes is a time lapse of the building. I guess it's a service building, right? As it goes up, they did a time lapse of that just so that
it kind of looked like an inn, the building had it looked like an area that was like maybe a stable and then a door. So it did kind of look like a very, very medieval inn like.
Yeah. Now I want to say it looked like what we'd already seen, right? The forge, the kind of thing. I think that's what it was, but to see the whole thing in a time lapse is pretty cool, right? So there's a tweet for that. We'll link that in our description down below. So go check that out. That will be fun to show you as well. Then the next announcement is really the community office hours. This is a strange one. I'll try to make this a little quick. So Vaknar and Roshan are going to be on Discord. And again, there's a time for that, and we'll link that, but it's coming up here in a few days. Where they're going to be doing a Discord stage event where players of the community basically discuss topics with ideas, but it's not a Q&A, right? So there's obviously a format to it, but they're going to be touching on some nodes, some follow-up conversation with folks. General node discussion is on the table. Village node visuals, say that fast a few times.
Mm-hmm.
The mayoral activities is one of the topics. Service buildings, of course, and then a quote-unquote dream node. What is your what makes a node desirable to you, right? We'll be on the discussion for that. So there's a link to all of that on the forums, and we'll have that in our notes as well.
Are you going to participate?
I may be there to see it. But if it's happening in Discord, I don't know. Maybe there's enough of a record where I can catch it when I catch it, kind of a thing. So. I will see. I'm still thinking about whether to be a part of that or not. We'll figure it out.
Fair enough.
All right, and then the next thing is something that we can show you, and that is the Unseen Order cosmetics pack. So they've done this forever, right, Mox? Like, it's the latest visuals, and you get to see what they are, right? This one looks kind of like a blood magic kind of a look to it. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's the latest one that comes up, alpha and beta keys. But here's the weird thing that they brought up. We would like to inform our glorious community these will be the final pre-order packs that are available. More information regarding this can be found in the FAQ at the end of this article. What are you talking about? I
never thought this day would come. And I would not have to deal with hearing about this in their monthly stream. Like, hey, what are they going to fill this time with?
And it's going to be strange. Who knows? 10 seconds of something else, I suppose. So,
10 seconds? No,
I don't know.
Or like 4 minutes.
Yeah, maybe so. So, here, the final pre-order packs include the Unseen Order cosmetic. They will be available, let me see here, from September 13th. Now, we're recording this on the 15th, so they've already gone live, right? So they mentioned here's when the switchover is going to happen. These are already out there, but look at the time on this. Usually these last for a month. This is lasting until January 17th, 2024. So
but it's the last one, that's why.
It's the last one.
They need to make every penny they possibly can out of their community.
Right, yeah. So it's going to be out there, but the big thing is really the announcement of the end of the alpha and beta keys that are going with it, and actually an end to these packs entirely.
Do you actually believe that it's the end of the alpha and beta keys?
So actually, if you switch, and I'll do this right here, if you switch to the FAQ, you can read more about it, right? This is actually, if you scroll down, it's on the same page. You can see all this stuff, right? Where they talk about, or why are the packs ending? Well, they've been doing this for a long time. There's not really a way to get the old stuff. Like, if you bought it when it came out, they respect that, and that's what's going to be, right?
Okay.
So, but they're turning these off for a while, it looks like. I don't know if they're going to bring them back at some point. They obviously reserve the right to. That's fine if they want to. It's their way of funding development, I think, in kind of an additional way to do it. You get to look like the NPCs and the various things in the game, kind of themed stuff if you care to. So it's all out there, but yeah, the ending of the keys this way is what's ending. That doesn't mean that they won't do it another way, and it doesn't mean that they won't be giving away keys as giveaways, right?
I wouldn't doubt that the alpha keys are done. I would be shocked if the beta keys are done forever.
Yeah, I mean, I don't doubt there's going to be certain ways that they, but yeah, I would imagine that if they find that the player response to the testing isn't enough, they would issue and make them cheaper, kind of a thing. So,
right, shorter time, so less cost.
Yeah. But this really the news is this model is changing. It's not going to be the pre-order pack, and then with it, there's the 2 or 3 different layers of it that have more and bigger ones that you can buy. If you've bought the giant pack the time before, now you have the option to, buy the certain pieces, the cosmetics, maybe the character costume cosmetics, and then with that alpha and beta keys, right? That whole thing is now going to go away. I imagine at some point it's going to be supplanted, right? It'll be replaced with something else. So we'll see what happens. So
I'm a big fan of the, if you sell something as limited availability, then you leave it at limited availability, and you don't go back and open it up down the road. So I don't see them coming back and offering the same stuff, or even the same stuff in a different color. I think that if they do offer stuff, it'll be new stuff, and probably a mix of good and bad, as pretty much it has been historically.
Yeah, some of them are better than others for sure. Yeah. But do not reskin them. We've been there, done that.
I'm very opinionated about that.
Right. Yeah, and you should be. I think when you've been burned, you're going to have something to say about it. So
yeah.
Speaking of burning.
So Unity, how many bridges that you have left, or are they all cinder now?
Right. Yeah. So let's talk about this Unity thing, because this is important. It's important to a lot of people, and there's been quite some reaction to it. Mox, would you like to walk us through what on earth happened? Like, they did something.
So,
what is it?
Unity had a pricing model. Whatever that was, I don't know. I know that obviously they charged something for the developers to use it, like a per seat license, and then there was some pricing model for release. So they decided they were going to change that, which is absolutely within their right to change their model. But the what they're doing and how they're doing it is just it shows zero forethought. And if you unless you had your head buried in the sand, you can have missed like all the backlash in the gaming community from big companies down to people who like are individual developers, probably for like mobile games and such.
There's a firestorm that like you can't avoid it, right? So, but the thing is with engines is that there's a step into the technical that if you don't really go dig and bite deep into it, you just kind of get that, hey, everyone's upset about something that they did. So what is it? I know that they've changed their pricing model. What is it about that has folks been out? So
you still have to license it, and it's like if you're talking about on like the pro or the enterprise level, it's anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000 per seat. So per user that is using that, you're paying $2,000 to $5,000 to develop your game per dev. So let's take, for example, a game like Ashes. Let's say Ashes. If Ashes was using Unity and they have over 100 developers, that's like 100 times 2,000. Probably actually for them 100 times $5,000 a seat. It's $500,000 a year for them to use that software.
Okay. Now, is that just in development, or is that at the time of release? That's
just the development side of it, and as long as they're doing updates and all that stuff, they still have to license that and use it, and so that's like every year they're thinking before the game's even released. How many years has Ashes been in development? 6 or 7?
I don't know. It's longer than that, I think.
Well, let's just say it's 7 years.
That's been a minute.
It's $3.5 million.
Well, so let's be careful. I want to hedge a little bit, with this, right? Disclaimer a little bit. We think we know what we're talking about. Maybe we do, and maybe we don't as well, right?
Right.
So if there's a detail that we have wrong here, please don't come after us. Or do
right. That's what salt mine's for.
Exactly, to dump all that salt on the. No. I want to invite our audience into this conversation, right? Like you guys are being subjected to what we're saying on this. So, if we are getting the details wrong, please, we'd love to hear the corrections, right? So we want to make sure that the news and what we're talking about is correct. So I don't know.
Going forward, the change they made is on top of that, they are wanting to collect a fee per installation of the game.
Okay.
It was like 20 cents per installation of a game. Now that does vary down to I think it's like 2 cents a game if you're paying for the largest, the more expensive license. It goes down to like 2 cents. But the most common games are going to be in that 20 cents a download once you hit the 200,000 downloads and $200,000 of income in revenue in a year on your game.
Okay, so it's based on your license, right? I think there's more expensive licenses and less expensive licenses.
Right. There's three tiers. There's like the basically the home version, the pro version, and enterprise version.
Okay, so now if you are doing the enterprise version, is the installation fee less per installation?
Yes, and the thresholds to hit it are higher. So you have to hit 1 million downloads and $1 million of revenue in a year before that kicks in.
Okay.
And you're paying less. You're paying 2 cents per as opposed to 20 cents per.
Right. So really, you kind of have to be able to anticipate how big your audience is going to be to be able to pick the most appropriate tier at this point,
which already is part of these companies' like budget planning. Like when you go in to do your business plan, you say my target audience is X size, and so we're going to. It makes sense for us to do the cheaper version, or our target audience is huge, so we're going to have to do the bigger one, so the more expensive one. So that's all already figured in there. But the issue with this new plan is the retroactive nature that they're trying to impose on this. They're trying to go backwards. They're trying to say, these games, you've already released your game 2 years ago, but if you already have 200,000 downloads, you're at that point, and as of January 1 of 2024, you have to pay us 20 cents per download.
Okay. So
for a game that was released 2 years ago.
Yeah, I mean that's problematic. Well, what happens when I have played the game, uninstalled it, reinstalled it, played the game, uninstalled it, reinstalled it, played the game? Would they have to pay 3 times based on the 3 installations?
They claim no now, but that was only as part of clarification. Okay. Like initially, it was per download period. And so basically, there's people out there saying, "All right, well, what if a developer really bomb their game, like a highly anticipated game, it bombs, so people decide to install bomb them?"
Yes, absolutely. Okay, yeah, this is okay. This is good thing to cover.
This is the nature of our society now. You see them doing it to movies; they review bomb them.
We don't. So it's not just enough to cancel. I don't uninstall and stop playing. I want to punish you. So how can I? So I uninstall, uninstall. Good. I mean, my goodness, there's better things to do with my internet bandwidth. But there you go. Right. Uninstall, reinstall, uninstall.
But here's the issue with that. The issue that I see with that is that if you have a game that's cross-platform, you get the company gets charged. Say it's mobile, web-based, and PC. So you could technically be charged 3 times for that one game. Now,
you know what? I think you should be charged for that. You should be punished because you made a mobile game that fits on someone's phone and that you can also put on your PC and also on their Xbox. That's just shameless. You should be punished for that.
Okay.
It's okay, bad joke.
But what about Steam Deck, for example?
All right.
Steam Deck is perfectly valid, but so I have it on my PC and on my Steam Deck. That's 2. But I'm telling you that gamers as a whole are vindictive enough to install virtual machines on their computers.
I'm kidding.
And get around this. And
you should not be bringing these ideas up.
You're right. I shouldn't. Disseminating. So it's just a terrible idea overall. Plus the fact that I made all my money from my game 2 years ago, but people still occasionally download it, and now I have to pay you for those downloads because I hit the threshold 2 years ago.
Right. Yeah, that's really the problem here, is the retrospective part of this, right? Where they say, hey, it's not just we're changing our pricing model. It's going to go into effect on this date. Anybody who uses this service after that date is
for
now
a newly released game
is subject to this new pricing model, right? It's retroactive, which means that the people that have been using it so far for however long never had the chance to opt in or opt out based on the rules that they're up against, right? Because I want to say that pricing models change all the time, right? I mean, it's not every other month Netflix or Amazon Prime or somebody is saying, hey, guess what? It's going to be another $1.50, right, for this. And everybody goes, oh, that's terrible, but I'm going to eat it because what is that? But if you count $1 per user, I mean, they
or even what if it was, all right, so it's going to be $1 extra per month. Plus, we're going to charge you 10 cents per show you watched for the last 3 years.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly what's
in effect what they're doing, and it's just disgusting. Now there are apparently, I didn't know this till I started doing some research today. The people that own Unity apparently have been involved in some shady stuff in the past, and it has it really is telling. Now the info that I have is that here it is. So apparently they went public in 2020, Unity. Mm-hmm. So these guys, Tomer Barzeev, Rolef Bortha, and Egan Durbin bought into Unity.
Oh, as investors?
What's that?
What do you mean by bought in? Does it mean they're investors or that they?
Yeah, they were investors. They because they went public. They bought a bunch of the Unity stock.
Okay.
So became and bought enough to have a somewhat of a controlling interest, apparently. And then there was this other company called Iron Source that was a monetization company that was bought by Unity for $4.4 billion, after these guys came aboard, that Tomer Bar-Zeev was the founder of Iron Source. So, and apparently they did some shady stuff with having to do with monetization and malware.
Okay.
And we'll have a link to this, to the tweet that I found in regards to this. And it goes on all this stuff that basically they just are some shady people. So for them to try to pull this over does not surprise me, given these guys' history.
Okay, but now what's happening though is there is a much of a backlash, including a drop in stock prices. So they are being punished by everybody. Folks are stopping using, and we'll go into the reactions I imagine in a minute, right? But enough of a stock price drop. Maybe what I'm recommending here or suggesting is that maybe they can be talked out of this, right? Like if there's enough of an impact.
A bunch of the executives sold their stock last week.
Oh, before this happened.
Right before this happened, right before the announcement, right before the drop, some of their executives sold a bunch of their stocks.
I don't know how that kind of thing is an insider.
Shady as heck. I don't know what the legalities are, but it looks shady.
That's insider trading. I might, but okay.
Yeah.
All right. So there's a lot to cover, obviously, right? I know that we're deep in the weeds here. We went down the rabbit hole, right? So let's not bury the lead anymore. Obviously, we know that Pantheon Rise of the Fallen is being built on the Unity engine. So obviously... Our immediate concern is, well, what is this going to do to them? Can you speak to that?
Yeah. So when I heard this the other day, I reached out to Ben Dean, who is one of the executives at VR, and asked him just point blank, saying, hey, curious if Visionary Realms will be posting any comment on the Unity announcement. I would not be upset if you gave me some beans. And his reply was simple and straightforward. Unity's announcement hasn't affected our plans at all. So that means one of a couple different things to me, anyway.
Okay.
Number one, they expect that this just is going to collapse and not be a non-issue. Like they will backtrack and they'll just continue using Unity and that's that. Like or they're anticipating not hitting those marks.
Okay, so that's
which is also disturbing in a different way for Pantheon.
Yes. Yeah.
But that's the only two ways I could read that, right?
They don't anticipate that they'll reach the threshold where it becomes financially problematic, right? Maybe
because I don't know what licenses they bought. Maybe they pay for the enterprise version, so they have to hit the 1 million downloads and 1 million, and they probably figure, all right, if we're hitting 1 million downloads, that we're doing great, then it doesn't really matter. But if they're on the lesser pricing model, then 200,000 is not a lot of people.
Yeah. So now another possibility is that it may be entirely too early for them even to know what the impact is going to be, or to be able to make these kinds of calls of judges. And it might as well be as if they had opted to use Unity as a future product, right? Like, okay, we'll just keep doing it and let the chips fall where they may, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
We haven't even determined a pricing model yet, right? So if they charge us X, we'll just adjust our prices, accordingly, and that'll just take care of it. Pass it on to the consumer, kind of a thing, maybe. So, I mean, there's a lot of ways this could shake out, right? For it not to have an impact, or at least to be perceived as not having an impact.
Yeah. So as far as Pantheon's concerned, it's apparently a non-issue. So we'll have to wait and see how it all shakes out and where it all comes down to.
But to the community, can we show them Redbeard Flynn's? This kind of made me laugh.
Chat with him on Twitter,
right? So what I liked about this was that it kind of made the thing make sense to somebody like me who isn't as in the weeds on this, right?
Right.
So he comes out and goes, I will retroactively be changing my fees. Every view, I think he meant to say, from January 1st on will count as an installation, and you will be charged 20 cents per install. This applies not only to new videos, but also to videos made over the last 4 years. Basically, Unity, what are you doing? Right?
Right.
So then some smart idiot has a comment to say to him and says, we're glad you aren't changing your appearance fee. Now, obviously, because he's appeared with us, right? He said, no, you'll be charged 20 cents per view on the episode I was, starting January 1st, right?
Yes.
Okay, so, I mean, in our world, oh, goodness, I mean, if that was the case, here we are having now to recover.
Yes. But Red is a smart guy. I respect his his
good
content
analysis.
a lot. Yeah, it was good analysis, but he also put out a video about like kind of this whole Unity thing, and it's really worth watching. Link will be in our description. But the most important thing I pulled out of that was a blurb about the the legal challenges that he dug up. That came in he found it on LinkedIn from Sheridan's Interactive Games. And basically, a lot of what they're saying is that this could be number one viewed as abuse of power or a position.
Okay.
Unity is the largest, their most used development tool by a large percentage. Like Unity is used in overall across the whole gaming industry. So this is mobile, PC, the whole nine yards. It's used by anywhere from, depending on the source that you have, from anywhere from like 50% up to 60%.
So they're leveraging their market share. Right. Their degree of control over the market of gamers, right? Because who are now like grandfathered essentially, because you can't exactly pull Unity out and go put something else in, right? You have to reinvent the entire
easily. Game. You have to learn apparently an entire new skill set.
Yeah, I mean, so I mean, like the engine is like pulling the foundation out from under your house, right? Like it's not gonna the whole house is gonna come down, so you have to rebuild.
Exactly, it's like having a house that has like a 2x4 frame and deciding, I want to go and put steel girders and such, and you can't just pull one out and put the other one in. You have to tear down the whole thing and start from scratch. Oh, and by the way, you have to go back to school to learn how to actually do the all that work.
Right. Yeah, so I mean, like it's so what happens is that these poor people are a captive audience, right? And then when you change that pricing model on them, they don't have a choice and they have to go, and that is why people are bent out of shape.
It's changing it so substantially. It's not just a matter of we're increasing our costs by 3% or 5% or whatever. It's we're changing our costs and we're going back into the past to determine how much you owe us as of January.
Right.
So there are many, in Europe and here in America, you got the Justice Department. In Europe, you've got the European Commission. There are governmental agencies that if you followed the Activision Blizzard thing at all, that was like highly contested in Europe because they have much stricter rules and they're much quicker to act than we are here in the US. So I think if this is going to be challenged anywhere, it will be in Europe initially, and it will quickly be addressed. They also said unilateral price changes in business-to-business contracts may be subject to the reasonable test under the Unfair Contract Terms Act of 1977, rendering performance substantially different to what's been expected. So, it's like, again, going backwards in time and saying you have to pay me for that stuff that happened years ago, it's not reasonable. And there's a couple other things. Again, we'll have a link to this, the whole post, the LinkedIn article that covers that. But I think that they're gonna struggle to make this work from a legal standpoint. And I'd be interested. Like, I wish I was a fly on the wall, like when they're talking to their attorneys about this. And what?
In queuing it up, saying okay,
obviously they can run it by their attorneys, right?
Well,
one would think. I mean, maybe they didn't, But
there's always a cost analysis, right? They maybe say, well, we are expecting there to be legal pushback. We expect that there will be X amount of cost associated with it, and here's pretty much what we size that up to be. Is that worth it? Well, yeah, it is, because we got all these people that are just going to go, well, just like Pantheon, right? Oh, well, we'll just roll with it. We'll just eat the cost, right. Or we'll just, and it'll ultimately, I mean, if their market share is large enough, maybe they can lose 15% of the market share over this and consider that, and the price increase makes up for it. And then, right. So maybe cost analysis wise, all of that's been factored in, and it's worth doing. You never know.
Yeah. On the Unity forums, they posted a clarification of some of the points having to do with multiple installations to the same device, charity bundles, things like that. And some of the stuff they backed off on, saying, hey, we're not going to charge if you install on the same device. But what happens if I upgrade my PC? Then again, the company has to pay because it's a new MAC address.
Well, MAC address, I was thinking about, what about IP address, right? If they use IP address to kind of limit, hey, there's been 6 downloads, within X amount of time to this certain IP address, that counts as one installation, right? Well, that can be spoofed. I mean, if they wanted to get back to abusing it, they could use VPNs. I mean, there's a lot of ways to mess around with that as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, so again, we will post the update. Probably the most important thing to that is that reinstalls will to the same machine aren't going to be charged. But as we mentioned, we think there if you're clever enough, there are ways around things like that. And then the installation, like if you have multi-platform, that each device counts as a different install. Which is going to discourage, like, you want to encourage multi-platform development on some things. Like, I don't want to play an MMO that is able to be played on a mobile. But if I have a mobile game I like and I can play it on my PC, then maybe I want to do that.
Right. Yeah.
So
the other way, for sure. Yeah.
And then we have the graphic from the from that individual developer.
Samyam? Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
So again, I came across this on Twitter, and I thought it was really interesting because this is just an individual person that is kind of laying it out. They talk in here about how they started doing Unity tutorials on YouTube, and their goal was to be sponsored by Unity. And kind of go tour with them and work with them and all that stuff happened.
Yeah, pulled it off. Absolutely, yeah. They
pulled it off, which was fantastic. That would be great. I mean, that's how we feel when we get an interview with the devs. They did what they wanted and reached the point which they wanted to. But then they changed these terms of service, and this person's like, I can no longer in good conscience continue to do this, and I'm going to explore other avenues and other things to do, and I'm not going to take any more money from Unity going forward, which I think it shows some tremendous integrity that Unity is not showing.
Well, yeah, and a lot of what happens if this doesn't work out? If ultimately they experiment with this, the legal issues become too much of a thing. It gets overthrown, right? They have to revert back to whatever. And now over that, you've burnt a relationship that would have been operating under the previous set of rules that would have been just fine, right? But maybe by then you've learned something about this company. There's enough shadiness, enough in their integrity is like what you thought it would be, or they're willing to go places that maybe the relationship should be burnt. Is really what I'm getting to. So okay,
and Sam in this post talks about the employees at Unity and how they feel that there's tremendous people that work for Unity, and the average person that is in there helping develop these new tools for these games to be made is not at fault here, that this is an executive issue. Then we have the overreaction of some people.
Oh, you want to talk about overreaction? I have one to show you.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so Unity temporarily closes its offices and cancels a CEO meeting after receiving a quote-unquote potential threat. All right, today we've been made aware of a potential threat to some of our offices. A Unity spokesperson confirmed in a statement sent to PC Gamer, which is where I'm reading this. We have taken immediate proactive measures to ensure the safety of our employees. Right, so they're receiving death threats.
Yeah, right? or incendiary device threats.
Right, or there's harm, right, that is being threatened to them, and they're having to now function around it.
To the average person who has nothing to do with this decision-making process.
Yeah.
I don't condone any threats being made to anyone, even to these dirtbag CEOs and board members who made this decision. I'm not condoning any threat to them personally.
But I think this speaks
run them
to your
out
point.
of town. but don't threaten to explode them.
I think this speaks to your point earlier, right? Where I think there's a lot of toxicity out there. It is fairly prevalent in our gaming community. I think everybody knows that. Do we support that? No. Do we encourage people to be different, to rise above that? Right? Absolutely, yes, we do. Right. So all of that said, we shouldn't have to say that again. But that said, I mean, like I said, I think this speaks to the kind of people that will figure out how to leverage the pricing model just to damage the company that they're mad at, right? Like if they're willing to take bomb threats, right, to Unity's HQ, surely
the problem is leveraging that to harm them harms the development companies, not Unity.
Yeah.
Like if you're doing this, if you're install bombing a company, like you're hurting that company, not Unity.
Yeah, and what is it that you want, right? You actually are, I mean, it's so counterintuitive to me because you actually want your game to do well. So punishing and destroying the studio, before making a decision that you don't like, will destroy your game, right? And where will you be then? Like you will have been part of the reason that game went under. Are you proud of yourself now? Congratulations on your achievement, I suppose, right?
Right.
So.
Like the Unreal Engine 5 came out, and everybody's like, oh, what game's going to be the first one to be out there with using this new engine and these new effects and this new lighting and smoke and, all that stuff that comes as part of these new engines. Now people are going to be like, oh, that's Unity. They suck.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Is there any other that you want to cover on the reactions?
Yeah, a positive way of reacting and taking action against Unity for what they're doing. There's a collective of development companies that have gotten together and they decided to turn off their Unity monetization.
Okay,
until
so
a fair and reasonable solution is found. So these probably are more like your mobile games that have ads and stuff built into them, or your web-based games and such. So apparently there's some sort of monetization that gets built in that is part of that goes to Unity.
Yeah, well, Unity does offer. I was actually in looking at this myself, right? They offer a suite of analytics and additional services that if you opt into those services, you can get a discount on this, right? Like, so it's like your insurance. Insurance companies do this a lot, right? If I have my auto insurance and my life insurance and my whatever insurance through one company, they'll give me discounts on all of that. But and like you can get it on your cell phone if your cell phone provider is the same as your internet, right? Yeah. You bundle things, you get them cheaper, and I think that's what they're trying to do is drive people more to using Unity's analytics and all of those things. Well, if these companies go, well, we've been using your analytics, we're not going to stop using your analytics, right? We're going to unsubscribe to that. It hurts Unity. And maybe that's a way to do it, right? Like to use some of that free market pressure to say to get them to change it. I don't know.
Right. And this is a group of what was posted of about 20 different development companies that have signed on to this, and they have given a way to for others to join in with them. So the more that these increase, the more immediate impact over the fourth quarter, or I guess it's actually, I guess we're coming into the first quarter of 2024, fiscally speaking. So that first quarter will all be damaged before January rolls around.
You want to roll up all the damage so that when this pricing model kicks in and they begin to charge people for this, their first quarter of 2024 looks bad, right?
Yeah, exactly. And maybe it, again, hopefully helps them to turn it around. Now, I'm sure they're still going to lose a percentage of these companies no matter what they do.
Right.
Some of these companies may already have developers in place that know Unreal well enough to be able to use it, or know some other game engine or whatever, to be able to move over that. This is only going to help Unreal Engine, by the way.
Oh, absolutely. Well, Unreal is looking incredible lately, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean...
Did you see? I forgot to pull this up, and I'll have to find it before we publish this. Unreal put out an ad the same day about how what their monetization is like.
Yeah.
And talked about waiving like the royalties on the first $1 million of all games and something of that nature.
Well, who knows, right? I mean, like corporate espionage. I imagine they probably were counter, strategy.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So and then the other way of battling this, Massive Monster put out one of the best games of last year, Cult of Lambs. Mm-hmm. It was like huge game last year. They are pulling their game from the shelves as of 2024.
Yeah.
And they are exploring engine options. So that's the other way that this could go. Like, all right, fine. We had this great game. You were making money off it. We were making money off it. Everybody was happy. You lose.
Yeah.
Unity.
Well, so maybe a game company can do that. They go, okay, well, look, we're going to be coughing up how many hundreds of thousands of dollars to do this. Why don't we just invest that money in pivoting, right, and using a different engine, and take a step back, and you're going to spend that money either way. You might as well spend it on the ultimately cheaper option, right? And sometimes it's like, okay, well, we didn't plan on spending this, but let's spend it now, and let's be better in the long run,
right? Because who knows? It's possible they were planning maybe some sort of DLC for Cult of the Lambs. Mm-hmm. So that and then maybe that was going to come out in 2024. So they're gonna scrap that for now, move to a new engine, and launch a new. Yeah. So
no kidding.
It's a mess. Unity is a mess. There's a lot of uncertainty in the gaming community now, but apparently not for Pantheon.
Yeah. So we're going to keep an eye on this, right? Like if anything comes out about Pantheon having to pivot as a result of this, or they're,
that would be a disaster. I really hope they don't, because a new engine would mean basically going back to square one.
Yeah, starting over. Yeah, absolutely.
And that honestly would probably sink Pantheon.
Yeah, I think that would be too much of a blow to the project. I agree. So obviously keeping a finger on the pulse of this, we want to make sure that if there's anything that comes up, we'll talk about it, right? So
we
absolutely. All right.
All right. So, as always, in the description below this video is a copy of a link to our link tree, which has all of our socials on there. So please, check those out. Find us on TikTok and Insta and Facebook and all that stuff. They're all there.
Indeed. Isn't that easy? So much easier to talk about the link tree as opposed to... that makes me so happy. That was a great idea, Mark.
Yep.
So, all right. That is it for us, friends. Thank you for joining us as always. We love that you, those of you who subject yourselves to this whole conversation, do as you do. So nothing but gratitude from us. If you are so inclined, we would love to hear from you about this, especially the corrections and the misinformation that we've been no doubt spewing in various parts in this discussion. Love to hear from you. So talking about, drop some salt in our salt mine so that we can discuss that next episode, hopefully. There's a whole like and subscribe thing, of course, and then the notification bell if you are so inclined, and that way you will not miss upcoming episodes. That will be it for us. Take care of yourselves. Remember always to be immovable in your principles and irresistible in your passion.